Interface design is like a joke. If you have to explain it, then it's not funny. This was a rebranding project. And the client is called Gond. The Gond is a legendary American toy maker. They were the first one that's to design and produce teddy bears. The designers, they are not allowed to guide the user. And then they started to realize, oh, what do you mean they're not seeing this? What do you mean they don't understand this particular icon? It's so clear to me, but that to me itself is a problem. I painted it like a printing press. So I'm using CMYK color. I dry brush CMYK color onto the canvas layer by layer, like printer.
Amazing. Amazing.
I take a famous Mondrian painting, I translate it into HTML, and I paint that HTML on the exact same size canvas. Teacher and the student grow together.
Hi, CJ. Welcome to the illuminz talk.
Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. So, South Korea to USA. How has been the journey been? How we would want to know where you grew up and how you studied and how did you choose design as something that you really, really love? And how did you find your passion and how did you come to US and how, what kind of works you have done and how you grew in this field?
Yeah, first of all, I'm actually from Taiwan, not from South Korea.
Sorry.
I have tons of friends that's from South Korea, probably in some of the conversation that led you to think I'm from South Korea, but I'm from Taiwan.
I'm so sorry. I had a wrong conversation then.
It's totally okay. So, well, how did I start it? I'm the person that you will say that I wear many different hats. I'm going to be honest, when I was back in Taiwan, I wasn't the typical great student. I like doing things that's creative. I like creating things. I like making things. I remember in those lecture-based classes, I wasn't really paying much attention. I'm like always making my own things. My mom always joked about this. She said when she reviewed my tests, the front, which is where I should answer the question, there's basically nothing there. But when she flipped over, it was like elaborate drawings or like frames of stories. It's all in the back. So in a sense that I was always a kid that kind of in my own imaginary world, and I just enjoyed that whole process of asking questions, coming up with stories, and developing things and creating things. So after I went to high school, for high school in Taiwan, I don't know whether you have the same system over there in India. We have this kind of school that's called, we call it professional school, meaning you go there not because your academic performances. You go there because you have some kind of specialty that you like to develop. And for me, that was art. So I got accepted into, at that time, the best professional high school in Taiwan. And so there I really started learning and in more of a structural way about design. As far as art goes, I've always been making art. I was sent to by my mom because I was restless. I do all kinds of things. So my mom sent me to this art studio, and because it's right across the street from my house, so my mom sent me there. It's convenient, but that art studio is actually for students that's from college. So from like 5-6 years old, I was mixed with these college students making art, all kinds of like art training, charcoal drawing, seal cutting, screen printing, whatever technique that they're doing in college. I started learning at a very, very young age, and that fascinated me. And I learned a lot from that experience. So I didn't really start doodling like most of the kids. I was like really in that environment, more or less like training fine artists. So from a very young age. But the professional high school was the first time that I started learning about design formally. But if I look back on my career right now, these two things for me are never really separated. I think they're different, but I think they're connected. So throughout my career, I maintain both track. I still do fine arts. I have had exhibition around the world, in museums in several different countries. But at the same time, I see that as my passion, like personal passion projects. And design is another type of creativity that I enjoy, because I believe in both. But fine art for me is more about expression, and design for me is about problem solving. So a lot of underlying creative skills are the same, but goal and focus are quite different.
I tell
And in
my
ter-
I tell all the people that I work with, they call themselves all the UI designers and UX designers. They call not UX but majorly UI. They would want to call themselves as artists. They themselves say that okay, we are artists, we are creating art. So I tell them that no, guys, you're scientists. You have to understand people's perceptions. You have to understand human behavior. You cannot just go on and create what your heart has in, and you'll and think that the world would just fell in love with it. They'll enjoy that. No, you are more of scientists than artists. We can mix the art in between, but yeah, I always say that.
oh, absolutely. That's what I told my student as well. I said there are two very different types of expressions, and the purpose and goals are different, right? Fine arts is really about your point of view expressed in your way. You shouldn't really bend yourself to please the crowd. That's not what fine art is. Fine art is about your unique point of view, and if people that believe in you and enjoy and appreciate your message or expression, they will come join you. So artists in that sense is very self-centered for a good reason. That's why art is like the tip of the creative triangle that continue to lead to unique and different things, because all these great people, the great minds, they're expressing themselves without compromise. Now, when it comes to design, like you said, it is an art form, and I would argue it's actually a little more difficult, because in that sense that you have to understand, number one, if you're an agency like my agency, right? When the client comes to you, what is the client's goals and needs and wants? What they try to achieve. Second is find out who their target audiences are. What's their goals and needs and wants? How can our creativity become that bridge to connect them together? Right? And then make that meaningful contribution in facilitating this particular communication channel. Now, like you said, UI design, I understand why you say it's a science, because the science of seeing and perception, how people perceive things, there's a logic behind. So, for example, when we create call to action, right? So when we create call to action, if the design system is set up properly, people then don't need to learn how to use the interface, because the interface already is telling them what to do. So when I teach my student about UI design, that the favorite quote I always tell them is this: interface design is like a joke. If you have to explain it, then it's not funny. Meaning the interface had to explain itself, because you don't want to read the manual to be able to use a website or to use an app. And at the end of the day, we always think, sometimes the misconception is being a designer with an artist mindset, we thought people are there to appreciate our work. But especially when it comes to digital product, people are there to solve their own problems. They don't care about your product or your art. They care about their problems. So if they pay attention and notice your work rather than focusing on what they need to do using this app or using this website, then your job actually has failed as a UI designer, because you're distracting them from their task.
Exactly. That's, I remember, there was this about a month back, there's this girl in my office, and she got a new iPhone 15, maybe like 2 weeks back. And she said, she was opening it, and, she asked me, hey, there is no user manual in it. I said, Apples do not come with a user manual, because it's so intuitive, how they're built into it, how they have gone into it. And, they always said that if you need a user manual, it's not a good product. And that's how many children's toys and children's games are built. They know that. I feel they have really nailed it when people who have designed children's toys and their digital products. They understand that it's the kids, and it has to be so intuitive that they'll just click on few things and they'll completely understand what it is. I'm
Mm.
sorry, I disturbed you in between. Two things before we move forward with the journey. One, in India, your professional course is called vocational course. Like, you go into one field after high school and it's called vocational course. So it's similar. Another thing is, do you read newspapers from the start or do you read it from the end?
Come again? I'm sorry.
As you mentioned that, your first page was mostly empty, but the second page has like lots of drawings. So I just wanted to ask, I have this habit of reading newspaper from the last page. How do you do it normally?
Reading newspaper?
Yeah.
Yeah. I scan through the headline first. So I go through from the beginning. I quickly scan through the headlines and find things I'm interested in. I zone in about that. So I would say non-sequential reader in that sense. Yeah, I like to quickly. Maybe that's why I'm not a great student in that sense, because I don't go from first bullet to the last one. I quickly jump around and then create my own path through content. And that's how I enjoy learning or enjoy experiencing content.
I think that's being a great student. On the contrary, it's a great student if you can like find your ways to do things differently. So that's what you have done in your life. So yeah, please move ahead. I mentioned newspaper because I cannot find anyone else who is like me who reads newspaper from the last page and then comes to the first page.
May
So
I ask why? Why did you start? Why do you start from the last one?
I think I think it's a habit that I formed. I like sports and business and tech news. They are in the last pages, and then move on to front news. Which are majorly about some war or crime happening somewhere. So I want to give myself a morale boost by looking at sports and then looking at tech news and looking at how business world is going on because those news are majorly gives us like happiness and then moving on between and maybe coming to the first page. I think I formed it when I was like in my teenage, when I used to read newspapers, as far as I can remember that.
That's really interesting because that conversation itself already is informative for someone who's interested in UX UI. Because user experience design, for example, you have to understand there are different types of people, right?
Yeah.
As simple as content delivery. It's not about, okay, the user should go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. User will find their own way of getting through this, this creation that you're building. So a lot of time in my class, for example, the student really starting to open their eyes when I ask them to actually do prototyping, and then I ask the user to think out loud. So they will be like, okay, what are you seeing on the screen? What do you think you should do next if you want to accomplish X, Y, or Z, and give them a task, right? And the student, the designers, they're not allowed to guide the user. And then they start to realize, oh, what do you mean they're not seeing this? What do you mean they don't understand this particular icon? It's so clear to me, but that to me itself is a problem because the designer should never think of themselves as the typical user, and then they need to resist that. They need to really design with people so they understand how people perceive their work. And when the outcome is not what they're expecting, they need to find the urge to defend. They need to allow their testing and their research inform their design decisions, which is the hardest thing to do. Even I don't know about in India, but in the United States, I think the biggest problem with design education right now is, like you said, designers are trained to think they are artists.
Yeah.
So they protect their work, and in all design classes, most of design classes, they have critique, right? And during the critique, they're learning to defend their design decisions. And I understand the value of that education, but I think that's a wrong approach because at the end of the day, doesn't matter which kind of design, is the communication is primary key. If the user cannot get what you're trying to do, and then you need to discuss and have this elaborate conversation in order for them to understand you, or they fail. Yeah, so that's really interesting. When we are just talking about reading newspaper, I thought I personally think there's a lot of insight there.
Great. Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, I think if we change their perception that They're not artists, they're scientists. They'll ultimately come to experiment so many things to find a great result. That's what scientists do, to find the final result, which is amazing result, which is the truth, which is the honesty, which is their users, that their users have to not just use the app perfectly, they just have to fall in love with it.
Mhm.
So designers are designers of businesses. They have to understand that, and they have to work like a scientist. So that's what I've always found. Yeah, please move on after your high school.
Yeah, so after high school, I went into military, which was mandatory in Taiwan. And then after that, I came to the United States. I joined Pratt for fine arts. And then later I graduated from Pratt. After Pratt, I went to UPenn for my master's degree. And I got a degree in studio arts from there. So I started my career as a designer back in Taiwan when I was 19 years old, straight out of the high school. Ever since I have been doing design, but at that time when I was young, my big dream was become this artist. And for artists, where else, right? New York City. That's where I have to come. So that's how I came to the United States and continue to maintain both sides. I guess
Which year
two
was
sides of
this?
my brain. Yes.
Which year was this when you came to New York?
That's January 1st, 1993. I
Oh,
took an airplane to fly to the United States. I took that flight, midnight flight on January 1st because was cheaper. Nobody wants to be in the air for the New Year. So I took that flight and then it came to the United States. So it'll make it easier to remember.
great. Yeah, so please go on.
Yeah, so that's after I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania, I came back to New York. I started to do both. I started my first design studio called Direct Solution, and that's 1998. So that's 1998. That's at the tail end of the whole internet bubble. So I quickly set up my design studio. I was working with advertising and create some digital design. At that time, digital design wasn't very sophisticated. It's basically websites. And at the same time, I continued to pursue my own, I guess, passion. I don't want to call it career, my own passion in fine arts. So I continued to do those two tracks. And like I said in the past, I'm very good at keeping myself busy. And starting around 2001, I started to write a lot. Today, I published 10 books so far, and several of which
Wow,
are being used as textbook in Taiwan. And it's also around 2001, that's when I started teaching as well. So yeah, that's what I have been doing with my past 20 something years. I've been leading design studio, doing client-based work, continue to produce fine arts whenever I feel inspired, and I've been teaching and writing as well.
amazing. So when you say fine arts, what is that? A painting?
I started as a painter because when I was growing up, in the concept that my teacher told me basically, well, there's no digital art at that time at all. But paintings, it sounds like the king of all artistic expression. So I have quite long training and experience producing paintings. So actually, if you're interested, I actually can show you some of my painting work.
I'm very interested.
Yeah. So let me share the screen with you. Right. So this is actually my personal website, meaning my artist's website. It's called C.J.Yeh. So I started early in digital design, so I got a four-letter.com the domain
Um,
without purchasing. So this is
Amazing.
see. So the whole
CJNY.com.
yeah,
CJNY.com is the domain. Yeah.
the whole concept is, in all honesty, when I was back in Taiwan, I was reading books about New York, but those books were written like 1970s. So it's describing a New York City that doesn't really exist, and it didn't really exist anymore by the time I arrived. I arrived in 1990s. So, for example, Soho, right? So in the books I read, Soho is this artist zone. People, drinking cheap beers and making good art And by the time I got here, it's all luxury stores. Like, what is happening? So after a few years, I realized that New York that I came for was long gone before I even arrived. So when I built my first personal website, I picked the name C.J.Yeh. It's like I want to build my own New York City, my own artist destination. So
Nice.
this is some of the artwork, and you can see this is a later part of the my painting. This one is called Plastic Age. Plastic Age series is really my departure from pure painting into digital art.
And it was shown in a museum, in the art
Yes, this
museum.
one. Yeah, this one was. This series has been shown in several museums, and this particular shot is from the art center at the Central University, Taiwan. Yeah.
Nice.
So these are huge paintings, and those figures are larger than life size. So what happened was, I have been using digital technology for my artwork, for my design work, but I never considered digital as an art form. So I started to challenge myself, say, what is the true differences? Digital technology is so exciting for digital design. I can do animation, I can have sound, and I can have all these kind of exciting things. Why is that not art? But at that time, there's no such a category as digital art. So I started challenging myself using my painting to emulate the creation of digital imagery. So, for example, these imageries are not actually mixing the paint and paint onto the canvas like a traditional painting. I actually painted it like a printing press. So I'm using CMYK color. I dry brush CMYK color onto the canvas layer by layer, like printer.
Really?
And
And
also on the
can you elaborate on that process? How you did it? How
yeah, for
you use
example,
white? Yeah.
yeah, I have yellow color. I dry brush it onto the canvas, so finish the yellow, right? And then I
Right.
go to the next color, blue. I dry brush the blue. After the yellow dry, I drop dry brush onto it. So it's like a printing press. You print one color at a time, and then finally the key color, the black, goes on, right? So if you actually look at this in real life, it's very thin paint. So they are layered together to create the final color.
Amazing. Amazing. You know,
Yeah. So
that
the final
I
output
wonder
is
I wonder how much time did it take to make one single painting like this? It would have taken a
oh,
lot of
these take
time.
a long time. Yeah, because after the sketching, I dry brush it. I have to wait each layer to dry, and to go on the next one, go on to the next layer. So probably several weeks, and depends on whether I'm feeling it's going the right direction. And yeah, but the whole process of creation for me is well, it is a meditative in a way. At the same time, also my paintings, especially starting from that time, isn't really. It's actually very conceptual. The final output is, I think they're beautiful. That's personal opinion. But the key point is, what's important is the concept why I'm doing what I'm doing, not just the final output, right? For example, I have in this series, I have a lot of these repetitive images because I'm challenging myself. Digital technology, as you know, Sanchit, is a very it's great at copy and paste. You
Yeah.
can make mistakes, copy and paste, but human is really bad at copy and paste. So I'm painting the first figure first, and then try to repeat it exactly the same. Try to do my best to repeat the next one. I want to continuously see how close I can be to technology. It's almost like that Andy Warhol quote, right? That he wants to become a machine. I'm testing whether I can become a machine. So that's one of the last series before I fully dive into pure digital art, and this is a departure.
That piece, that piece is really amazing. I would have loved to see it in a museum. So yeah, I mean that piece was really amazing. I hope we could show it in our local museum sometime. I'll ask you about it, how we can do that here in my place in Chandigarh. But at the same time, that piece was really amazing, really lovely. And you know, your take, your imagination, how you went into it with the plastic age, and of course, you have to draw everything and that's meditative, but it takes a huge amount of time to perfect that art. It's not that easy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And this series is called Liquid Mondrian. And this is, again, I'm challenging the different, the sameness and differences between traditional art and digital art. So what you're seeing here is I take a Mondrian, famous Mondrian painting, I translate it into HTML, and then I paint that HTML on the exact same size canvas and as the original Mondrian painting. So at the end of the day, if you look at it, and I even frame it the same way Mondrian framed it, based on what I learned from the document that I found. So the size is the same, the material the same, the content is actually the same because if you type those HTML code, you get that imagery. But the final object at the end is so different. And again, I feel it's a bit more conceptual than actual painting, but the final output is painting. And that's another series that I did around that time when I'm transitioning from fine art to digital art.
Amazing thought process. Even at the time when people could not just Google Lens it and put it into code, they just had to actually put it in a notepad or a Dreamweaver file and see, okay, what's the result? Is the result the same when they go to the art gallery? Yeah, amazing, amazing, interesting take on it, CJ.
Yeah, so it's funny because if you know HTML, I mean, these are very old HTML the language,
Yeah,
but when you look at it, you can
TR
actually
and
in your head draw it out. Yeah.
yeah, I know. I started coding HTML long way back, and TR and TD they are not used much as of now, but only in tables. But earlier, the whole pages were made in TR and TD and TH and all those things.
Yeah. So those are the series before I really dive into, I guess, the true digital work. When I start doing interactive work that people can interact with, but I'm using them as a way to actually criticize, in the sense of digital technology. For example, this piece is an installation called Like Me 777. And this one was really a commentary on the current society, social media based society. People are doing things just to get alike.
Yeah,
Right?
what is 777 in this? What does that depict?
Oh, you want to see it? I can show you a little bit of a video.
I would love to, please.
So it's an installation. So I wrote this program. So if you stand in front of it, any movement that you make, it will give you like. And when you hit this magic number 777, it will shower you with praises and say you're great, you're beautiful, congratulations, meaningless praise, like what we get from the internet today. So here's a case study video. So I was being sarcastic. Okay, I like you this much, like me back. And then they give you the link to my Facebook account. At that time, Facebook was the biggest social media. So that's another example of my work.
Yeah, but social media has at the same time become so big now that it's highly problematic. I feel, when people look for recognition from people they don't know or false recognition. But it's another topic at another time. I feel that it's doing detrimental things to the society. But yeah, I mean, people use it. Yeah, please go on, CJ.
No,
And
absolutely, I agree. So most of my work is actually I'm using digital technology, but I'm criticizing how the contemporary digital culture is going towards a very unhealthy place. Yeah, so it's almost like yeah. So those work may look fun, but deep down inside, what I'm hoping to do is to get people to rethink what they're doing with this digital technology. So that's kind of like the why I keep on doing both fine art and design. In terms of fine art, I believe it's not about providing solution. It's a perspective. It's a point of view. It's almost like shuffling you, so you will rethink and try to reorient yourself and rethink what I'm doing and what is happening right now. For my artwork, if I can get people to stop and say, "Huh, that's really interesting. I never thought about that." and what is the artist trying to say. If I starting to get them to question a little about the what's around them a little bit, I think I'm doing my job. But for design, though, that's completely opposite. Design is about solution. It's about solving a problem in the way that you believe that it's going to deliver value to, if you're doing it for client or brand, or of course, if you want to help them, the best way to do it is to deliver that value to their target audiences. So you have in today's society, no matter what kind of design that you do, the worst thing that you can do is to seduce and cheat and lie. And because those things don't work anymore. We live in the social media society. If a brand lies, for example, and don't deliver what their mission, they get criticized, which is a good thing in that sense. So I believe, especially in digital product design, like what we do, the UX UI, we need to provide value. We need to stop thinking about creating the most seductive experience, so make it sticky, like we said, so people continue to come back. The whole focus of what I do with my own design work is I want them to come back because they are getting value out of what I'm creating.
Nice. When was the decision to become a teacher, to teach? How did you come to that decision that, you're going to teach and, create careers or create great designers in the coming times? How did you come to that?
I started teaching as a teaching assistant when I was back in at UPenn. UPenn, we have this program. Graduate students, you can choose to become TA and then help teach undergraduate students. And I think primarily, I enjoy that because several reasons. Number one, I like the fact that it's easy for me to do something, but when a student asks me why, that stopped me. Like, yeah, why? Why am I doing it this way? Or why is this working? Right? Or what I believe this is the way it should work. What is a underlying technology, that whatever principle that's making it work? I enjoy that. So in Chinese, we have this saying that teacher and the student grow together. I believe that because I can design a logo. I can say, hey, this looks great. When I need to explain to student why their work is working or not working, that's take a whole different level of thinking.
Exactly.
I think you probably experience that a lot too. As a creative director or art director of a creative team, that's actually a lot of time the similar job as a teacher. You have to
Yeah, it
explain
is.
to them a vision,
I'm
and also explain to them how they can help, how you can help them get there, and understanding why they're doing is either right or wrong. And then that intellectual conversation that happens is very similar to what I believe teaching is about.
exactly. I am a CEO of a company which has designers and engineers and marketeers as well. So I wear lots of hats, but all of them have their own heads. So I don't get to teach designers much. I get to teach them as little as I can, but highly valuable advice that how I view it, how I think that there would be delight, and how users view that thing. So I keep on reiterating those things. I have good discussions with the design with the team that we have because um, I feel how the world is moving right now. It's a lot of design and marketing. If you can create a product, digital product or tangible physical product, it has to feel great. It has to serve a great purpose in as less time as possible, and it has to feel great. So I keep on looking at those things again and again and again and reiterating my values, and I keep on discussing that with the team.
Mhm.
Yeah. So about you, you are as a teacher, and you're working as you're having a creative agency as well. How do both of those roles compare? Is it 50-50, or is it 80 teaching, 20 as a design agency owner? How do you measure those? How do you balance those? Because it may be quite tough to do both the things.
Yeah, and as I'm getting older, it's getting tougher and tougher. I used to be able to teach 3 classes in a day, no problem. Right now, after one class, I'm like, oh my god, I'm tired. Right? So it is fundamentally, I enjoy doing everything that I do. If I don't enjoy it, I don't want to do it. On the other hand, is all these things I'm doing, actually, I see them as are different facets of the same core. for example, when I want to learn something, right? I study and learn it, and then the output could become, for example, the book that I write, the project that I'm making right now, or the fine art piece I create, or what I talk about in the classroom. So a lot of this coming from the same place. And at the very beginning of the interview, you talked about you being a very curious person. That's me too. A lot of times when I hear something, the first thing I think about is, oh, why? That's really interesting. I want to know more about it. And that's actually my favorite word from my students. When I just teach them something and they don't ask why, I feel like I kind of know that they're at least not all of them are absorbing, and I started to ask them why. I say, I just told you, when you create your competitor analysis, right, or your MVP, your minimum viable product for your this project that you're working on. Okay, I need you to break them down into two lists: table stake and delighters. A lot of time they just don't have any question, and they'll ask them, "What's the difference between table stake and the delighters?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, why?" Why? So I think in some ways, I think my most important job as an educator is to break them break them out of that passive zone. I want them to start being eager and curious about anything that people tell them about. I think once they have that curiosity, they don't need answer from me. Honestly, they can find answers like Google or by AI. But the most important thing is they gotta have that drive to want to understand the deeper side of things.
Yeah, I think being curious is highly important, but at the same time, it's very important to working on that curiosity. It should not be okay, you're being curious and you get an answer and you're not thinking further. So just an example, I was with my team and we have really nice bakeries in our city here in Chandigarh. So there's a bakery, which has a legacy of 15 years. They have amazing taste, amazing pastries and sandwiches. Many of our partners, our clients, they come from US. They love that bakery because they say that okay, they've never had something like that before. It's amazing how they make things. At the same time, my teammate told me that there is a bakery open next to it, and I went to that bakery and. My teammate, she really liked that bakery. She said, "Okay, it has like really nice colors and this." And I went and I immediately came out and I called her. I said, "This is not going to work." She said, "Oh, but why?" Because they are running in India in 20 to 30 locations and they're doing really, really great. I said, they never came to our city. Our city has a 1,000-pound giant gorilla, which is this bakery. And this bakery has amazing culture. And at the same time, the bakery has 500 products that are all really, really, really tasty. And the new bakery that has come up has like 20 products, and some of them they may be tasty, but they're not going to compete on culture. And yeah, when we were discussing, she was a bit hesitant. She thought that maybe I have figured it wrong, but it had been 2 years. The bakery next to it is not working. So I told her that we have to think that it's not going to work because of that. And I was just being curious about it. But if that bakery would have opened maybe 3-4 blocks away from the older bakery, they might have done a bit better business. I don't know. It was like, there was a wall in front of them and they just did a headbutt on the wall by opening to the bakery, which has 500 products and all really tasty products. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
I agree with what you're saying, and because you have been in business, and also that's a natural part of your human, what you believe in terms of curiosity and finding out things. That's why you're successful, right? And then also because your years of experience make it a little more intuitive, meaning you see things and you quickly analyze it based on your past experience and knowledge, and you say, okay, this is probably not going to work. I mean, nobody's 100% of the time, but your experience and really builds up that intuition, which is harder for young people because a lot of the time they see the obvious, right? Like your coworker that you're mentioning, she see the obvious. Yes, it's part of a big chain. Sounds like, and if they become a big chain, they must have something that are pretty good at doing, which is probably true. But but she didn't think about the other side of things, which is what the location. Yes, it's probably a good location. That's why the old bakery is so successful. But if you place that two things side by side, when people have to make a choice, do they go with a new fancy thing or do they go with something that they trust? And like you said, it has that culture built in already. So a lot of time, those memory, those emotional connections with a brand, in this case, a bakery, it's hard to replace. And when you're up against then you got to do a little extra something to make your business successful.
which the new bakery didn't have. So
Which
yes,
they didn't think about. They think like, hey, we are successful in other places, so we will be here as well. And that's a little part that they miss in terms of their strategy, sounds like.
exactly. So yeah, moving forward about your agency, can we see some of your work? I'm highly curious to see some of the work that you have done, if it's possible
Sure.
for you.
Sure. Let me show you. So my agency is small. I actually stopped doing the agency around let me see, 2013. When I was hired as actually 2003, when I was hired as full-time faculty at FIT. And I realized because a new full-time faculty, I need to dedicate my time to education, so I closed down Direct Solution. So I spent about 9 years dedicating to education and writing and doing my own fine art work. I didn't do much design at that time. I freelanced once in a while. Around 2012, I realized my knowledge about design seemed a little dated. I realized not being knee deep into the design world, and then I'm starting to lose touch of what's happening in the profession. So I wanted to reconnect so I can bring the up-to-date value back to my student. That's when I started Sinda Media Lab. Just a little bit about its name, meaning why I started it. I mean, I have a full-time job. I'm a fine artist. I don't need money to survive, so to speak. I'm not rich, but I don't need money to survive, so to speak. So when I created this new studio, I have a mission or purpose in mind. Sinda is a Greek word for Cynthia. As a name, it means the person that comes from Mount Kynthos. Mount Kynthos is the mountain that Zeus was sitting on, watching Apollo and Artemis getting born. So I want this agency to serve its purpose to help creative industry and also at the same time help my student who graduate from school and then want to get their foot into the industry, give them a pathway. Because I realized there's a disconnect between design education and the real industry. So a lot of times students don't get to make that transfer successfully. So I want to give them a place to exercise their creative muscle and learn more so they can become successful. So that's a structure of a Sinda Media Lab. We have 5 partners and we often work together, but for each project, we bring on new graduates to give them that opportunity to do some real work, to make some money to support themselves, but more importantly, learn that valuable experience. So that's the structure and the purpose of this of this company. So we don't.
Amazing idea. So do these students work with you for a long term, or they work for a part term, they get a really good hands-on experience, and then they move forward and you give something great to your partners as well?
Yeah, so most of the time, I want these collaborators that we bring in to move on to bigger and better opportunities. We consider ourselves a stepping stone to help them
Stepping
get there.
stone, right?
Yeah, and our partners, of course, we are the constant. So we start with 4. Right now, we have 5 partners, and we are the constant of the studio. So, but all the other people that come join us, we want to send them on to bigger and better things.
Nice, very nice.
So most of the so you can see from our client list, we try to work with agency brands that has interesting mission and interesting things that they want to achieve with this particular product or campaign. I would say probably I will show 2 projects. This one's a rebranding project, and the client is called Gond. And you probably don't know, but Gond is a legendary American toy maker. They have over 100 years of history in America. That's a long time. America itself is only, 200 something years old. And this company has more than 100 years of history. Now,
Amazing.
they were the first one that's to design and produce teddy bears. And they
Nice.
started, their product sells themselves. in the past, because they have these patented technology that actually make their product extremely soft. You touch it, you love it. If you're in the market for plush toy, you touch it, you love it. So they came to us quite a few years ago, and they say, we need a social media campaign. And me being me and Sinda Media being Sinda Media, my question was, that's great, we can do that, but why? Why do you need a social media campaign? So they started to talk about the decline in sales. They started talking about they believe that's because their social media at that time was the main platform was Facebook. So we can't get the people to follow us. So I say, oh, that's great. They were like, okay, so what's your solution? I say, I don't want to have a solution right now. This is just consultation. Let us do some research and we'll get back to you. So about 2 weeks after we did our first initial research, I went back to them. And it was a long presentation, but at the end, I show them a screenshot. I showed them a screenshot of Amazon.com, and then Amazon, and then I type in teddy bear. I say the problem that you have right now is every teddy bear behind the glass feels the same. What you used to have, that advantage that you used to have, which is a tactile feeling, no longer work in the digital age when e-commerce is taking over, and you don't have your own store. You rely on other people's shelf space, and there's fewer and fewer physical store. So that's why your product is no longer selling like it used to. So they say they want you. What do we do? Do we need a social media campaign? I say no. You don't need. What?
They were completely offline before this, not online at all.
They have online, but the problem is when they're online, it looks just like another teddy bear. Because the people used to love their product because when they touch it, they can feel the softness, like cuddliness.
Right.
So that's why I said behind the glass, every teddy bear feels the same. Because if it is the same, then why? They are not the cheapest game in town. People can buy other teddy bear that look similar, but it's a little cheaper, right?
Right.
So
right.
That's why they're struggling. So they say, do we need a social media campaign? I say, we could do a social media campaign, but you need to rebrand. You need to start communicating the core of what makes your brand successful, which is a softness, which is an emotional connection with your product through your brand identity. So I convinced them, instead of doing the social media, we created a complete rebrand. So let me show you this quick video. So their original logo looked like this. Graphically speaking, nothing wrong with it, right? It's nice typeface, current in a kind of interesting way. But if I tell you this is German German watchmaker, you'll believe me, because it doesn't have softness to it. I say that doesn't work. So
it feels very like, corporate-y, corporate kind of thing.
Corporate, precise, hard, and cold. Then you're not communicating what your product is about. So that's why we changed it. So we created a whole new typeface for their brand to make sure, take out all the unnecessary sharp corners. Then we bring in their signature product, that little bear is called Snuffle. And then I say, that is the goal, because you are the first company that really pay attention to how the expression of the teddy bear should look, because you want to make that emotional connection. You need to make that part of your brand. And also there's a history behind. This teddy bear is their best-selling teddy bear of all time. It's called Snuffle. Snuffle was created and designed by the CEO at that time, the CEO's mother. So there's entire human history behind this 100 years company, and you're not leveraging it. So we recreated a brand, and to make it so people can see and sense how the human connection. For example, instead of everybody just get a boring business card, you have so many great products. You let your employee to pick their favorite product and put on their business card. So it becomes a family, right? Amazing. And then on social media, all of a sudden you have mascot. You have the emotional connection with people, and then the way that it's expressed. So we didn't do really a social media campaign, but after the rebrand launched, in 18 months, their social media following quadrupled.
Wow.
And their year-to-year business, I'm not saying it's all us, but we're a big part of it. their year to year went up 20%. So
Wow.
that's what I meant by design is problem solving, because it truly is about understanding what the source of the problem is and then try to find a way to overcome that challenge. I mean, on our side, as designers, we're happy that we want a lot of award for it. But at the end of the day, what makes us the most happy is the fact that we help this legendary company and then get them back on the foot again. So I think that's why I would like to share this particular case study, because
Amazing. Amazing. How you changed those to like how you thought over everything, changed the social media strategy to like rebranding is really amazing. And it comes from experience and taste both. And at the same time, how you converted that font, which looked like a premium clothing brand or something, it changed it to like rounded corners, which children and their parents really, really love, because Snuffles has to look round. It's a teddy bear. It has to look round. It's a brand already, because people have to feel round when they hold that teddy bear. So I don't know why
exactly.
they were having that typeface before, but you completely changed it, and how you even won an amazing award for it. So amazing. That's like really amazing work, CJ. I feel proud to be looking at your work.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, because that's what design truly is. It's not about creating something beautiful. It's about
Exactly.
using communication design skills in terms of color, in terms of shape, in terms of texture. How do you communicate what you need to communicate? So a lot of time I see students always come up with similar look because they think that's their style, and that's when I know that they are in that artist mentality rather than designer mentality, because every color could work. Depends on what you really try to accomplish. Are you trying to shock people? You try to be friendly? Are you trying to wake people up with something that's unique and different? Are you trying to show diversity? You have to understand the brand archetype and what the message is before you can make correct design decisions. And that's
Exactly.
what fascinates me about design.
Exactly. And how you put like in between you and done, how you added Teddy's ears was really amazing. It's really amazing, and Snuffle's ears and how its eyes come up. It's really, really amazing. I feel that, as soon as I see that brand, I would associate Teddy Bear with it forever. So that's the association that you were looking for, right? People should associate with
Exactly.
Snuffles as soon as they see it. Amazing, amazing work.
Thank you. Thank you. And if we have time, I will show one more case
We
study.
have, we have.
Yeah.
Please go on.
So this one is not a, I mean, we didn't work for free, but it's not a for-profit project. But I also, it has a great, important place in my heart, because this time I'm solving problem for myself as a teacher. So
Hmm.
we all got thrown into this pandemic. We have to start teaching online, remotely, and it was really difficult for everyone, teachers included. And all the teaching software on the market are horrendous. They were designed by people that has no experience teaching. They're basically designed by engineers without input from the user or from the design team. Most of them look like that. So about a few months into the pandemic, I'm like, we got to do something. So we got the grant to create this new teaching and learning platform.
And
We
who is
wanted to
this we? Who is we?
uh,
You and teachers associations. In we, it's teachers association or Cinda Media Lab. Who is we when you mentioned that we wanted to make something?
no. When I say we, in this case, is Sinda Media Lab. Me as a
Amazing,
teacher. so
amazing.
I so we work with MIT. We got funding from MIT. It's not a big budget project, but we got enough to support this project to bring in, except the core team. In addition to the core team, we also invited two seniors at that time. That three actually, three seniors at that time. That's starting at FIT, do the research and then participate in the ideation and design. So within about 6 months of time, we launched this new platform, teaching and learning platform called Remote Learning Hub. So we have features that's in there that really we believe will make the student experience a lot better, studying online, and the results show actually it did. So let me play this
Amazing.
case study video and we can talk a little more. Yeah, so that
Nice.
project really is very meaningful for me because I mean during the pandemic, everybody is panicking, emotionally very hard for everyone. And I believe I created something that helped more than just me, and it helped my student. And after the semester testing it, we got like 95% of satisfaction rate from the student because the research process that we had led us to understand what the true user problems are when doing remote learning. For example, through our research, everybody is starting to realize the biggest problem with remote education at that time is you don't get to go anywhere. And as a school, especially a college experience, a big part of it is about being in the community. But if you're not going anywhere, you're just staring at the same screen all the time, rectangles. Yes, you see people, but you don't feel you're together. You need a sense of togetherness in order for education to work better. That's why we create that virtual campus that you saw, and we utilize this proximity sensing video conference technology. So when your avatar walk closer to each other, you start to hear each other. When you're close enough, you see. And then when you walk away, right? So although you're not physically moving, but your avatar give you that sense of belonging and space and location. So students can run away from it if they want to. Apparently, that's what they want. And
I'm
also
sure not.
that campus, we try to make it fun, right? So we have, or it is showed in the case study video, but we have a virtual bathroom over there.
Yeah, yeah, I saw it.
And the virtual, yeah, and that part is really funny because through our research, one of the students said one thing that she always felt embarrassed about is she didn't want to say out loud with microphone and say, I need to go to the bathroom, but she has bio needs. And then she always feels like that's challenging. So we said, oh, that's great. If you had put your avatar in the bathroom, that's fine. And then I know you went to the bathroom. I know you didn't skip my class. So some little things like that comes from true research and allow the research to guide you. Like we create all these little nook and crannies, so students can go to like work together as a team in a tree house. Then they have connected shared memory. And that's a big part of of education that's missing during that pandemic time or long distance learning in general. You don't have that shared experience. Yes, information are presented to you. Yes, you could learn skill, but you're not motivated because you're doing it alone. It's a very isolated experience. Yeah, so
Exactly.
for that particular project, I feel extremely proud and happy because such a short amount of time we had, and we need to quickly roll out the product that worked, and it was hard during that time, but we were happy about it.
Amazing. Is it live somewhere right now, or did it run for a short period of time, or do you still use it?
Yeah, the system still exists, but FIT is going back to full face-to-face, so we are not allowed to teach remote anymore. But system still is still functioning, but we were not allowed to use it.
Amazing. Amazing how you solved making a connection in between people and those small nuances, like going and taking breaks and putting them in those areas. Amazing. Yeah. So you have a great team, and of course, with the kind of things that you have worked on, it shows amazing experience. It's amazing to have this talk with you, CJ. I want to know. We're writing a book for AI. How to use AI in design. I think someone from my team talked to you, or maybe not. I'm unsure. How do you think automation is affecting AI in design as well? And at the same time, with virtual classes, do you think of Apple's Vision Pro? Can it help? Maybe later on. I know that people-to-people connection is very important. If I am sitting in a class with 50 other people, the kind of energies that we'll have and how we'll come together and work on would be really great. But I'm talking more about professionals who have like busy work. What do you think? Vision Pro would do something good for them?
Yeah, well, it's a loaded questions that you just asked, Sanchit. First of all, AI.
Curious.
I
I'm
believe
curious.
AI. Yeah, AI is already part of creative process for most of the companies I know to a certain degree, right? For example, even my own studio, we use AI. For example, copywriting, we're using it to generate ideas. We're using proofread. For visual design, we use it to generate inspiration. So we never use AI to just finish a project. Not that it's not impossible, but at this time, AI technology is not quite there yet. But so for my own studio, we're using it to speed up our creative flow and then to get more stimulants into the creative process.
Are you using some kind of generative AI where you get illustrations or imagery and you
We
can
don't
use in
use
your
it for final product, but we use
Okay.
it to generate ideas. Because a
Nice.
lot of people bring us different perspective on certain things. So it makes our design team bigger without adding more people in that sense, right? Because we're using different prompt. We can make AI to which think different from us to enrich our the possibility that we can see in front of us. As a teacher, I'm concerned because design education for a long time, or most of the education, I will argue, for a long time is about busy work. It's about production. Let's just be honest. It is about production. Graphic design, for example, you're learning to
Right.
typeset. That is going to be gone 5 to 10 years max. You don't need to do that. I often told to my student and use this as a reference. I say when I first started as a designer in 1988, 1989, I worked. I was a junior designer for one of the largest advertising company at that time in Taiwan. We have an entire floor, the huge building, entire floor, probably 200, 300 people. On that floor, they are called mechanical artists. They are the computer. They put together the mechanical board that goes to print. So they are extremely precise. They cut the text as we use phototype at that time. They cut it and assemble it and then make sure everything is all the grid is correct, it's beautiful, and send it to print. They're amazing artisans. That's how computing come out. Within 2 years, 3 years, entire floor is gone. Entire floor is gone because they are no longer needed. Now,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, design or a lot of major, I'll argue, are focusing on that, including programming engineering. I believe the future of creative team is going to be much, much smaller. Minimum 30% to maybe 60, 70% of workforce is going to be gone in the creative industry. Because I'm not saying creativity is not important. I'm saying you don't need as many people because a lot of the time, if we count the workday hours, a lot of them is going to production work. Anything that can be turned into logic, computing can do it in a more precise way than you can, right? So yes, it's not there yet, but just because it's not there and thinking the future is not going to come is fool's gold, I believe. So what I want to do in my own classes to reframe my students' brain, I need them to understand it's not about the actual making itself. It's really about problem framing. It's about empathy. It's about understanding if you have 3 or 4 beautiful illustrations done by AI in front of you, which one has value, right? Or why isn't it working? That level of thinking, higher level of thinking, is what you will give them jobs in the future or keep them on the job in the future. So almost like you will have very few graphic designer, but you will have a lot of art directors, right? Because art directors understand the whole concept of in terms of what is needed for the creativity going forward. So I think AI, unfortunately, is going to bring disruption to creative industry. A lot of people say, "Hey, creativity cannot be replaced by machine." I disagree. I agree, creativity cannot be replaced by machine, but big part of creative industry is actually not really always doing creative work. A lot of it is production, logical work that needs to be executed. That is a difference. So the creative industry will become smaller, will become more powerful. If you stay in the creative industry, it's like you got another pair of wings. Now you can create so fast, so many diverse ways. And so in running away from it or deny it or having strike like the American Writers Association was doing is not the answer. The answer is how do we reconfigure the economy and make sure people still doing what they enjoy, but saying going back to it's almost like the protecting your job really isn't the way to go. You need to see where the future of the jobs are.
Amazing.
Sorry, I got very happy.
No, it's not heavy. It's the right take that you have. I also have this thing when you mentioned that how the whole floor was gone. Traditional art, Ghibli studio in Japan is making amazing movies with the traditional art. The like draw and hand paint everything, and Hayao Miyazaki and his team and others. He gets out of retirement and comes back and makes another movie. They do it like traditionally. All the studios in the world are doing it on computer CGI, but they are still doing it traditionally. Uh, I wonder if there would be companies who would be building everything traditionally, and they would create an immense value of themselves. How Ghibli Studios did it. So we need a case study of how Ghibli Studios does it. Maybe they take longer time. At the same time, clients need things really fast in the practical world. They need to launch a product because their competitors are launching it. They need to have modules in their existing products, and they need them fast because if their competitor launches it, they're gone. So they need things to be done really fast. So the science part of UI would always have to run very fast, but the art part of it has to maybe have some traditional values forever. So yeah, I mean, it's would be crazy to see how the world is shaping up. I have been talking to many people, and quantum computing is coming. I believe the world is going to be 3D. Some people say that it's going to be more UX and not much into UI. There are many things, but uh, right now we are making some really amazing things, and that's what we have to focus on ultimately. Yeah.
I
So
agree. I
really,
agree.
really nice talking to you, CJ. I hope we talk sometime soon. And you gave us an immense value. And I am sure that the whole audience, every viewer would love what you have done, and they would gain a lot out of it. And yeah, I mean, it's really amazing. Thank you very much. I hope we do an amazing podcast maybe later on. Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Great talking to you. Thanks for
Thank
having
you
me.
very much.